12 drivers remain. Only one will be Cup Series champ. The NASCAR playoffs continuing at Charlotte. I saw the story that Terry Francona was going to become the Reds manager, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. I thought he retired. He stepped away from the Guardians. Terry Francona joining us on the program. What happened to retirement?
Hello, Dan.
Hi, Terry.
You know what? I stepped away a year ago because I just didn't think my health was allowing me to do the job appropriately. Wasn't for any other reason. I loved being in Cleveland. The people were fantastic, the people I worked for. But I felt like I was kind of shortchanging some people. And I stepped away for a year and kind of took care of myself and had a semi-normal life and did not expect to be interviewing for jobs. But when the Reds reached out and we talked, it just felt right. And that was how it felt the first day in Cleveland. And that's how it felt here. It just felt right.
What was it like to wear normal clothes for an entire year?
Well, if you know me at all, that means I have 3 pair of jeans and 4 golf shirts. But one of my favorite things in the whole world is getting to the ballpark, getting in your sliding shorts and your shower shoes and figuring out how you're going to beat somebody's ass that night. That's one of my favorite things.
But, okay, sometimes when you step away, you see coaches do this in the NFL all the time, where they'll step away. And what kind of clarity did you get, and how does that help you health-wise of going right back into what you were trying to get away from?
That's actually an honest and fair question. One, I don't think I'm ever going to have perspective. I think at this age, wins and losses kill me. And I don't think that's ever going to change. I really have tried to take care of myself and get myself in a position where I can do the job appropriately. Now, there's going to be some challenges. I know, we're going to get into the season and late nights and stuff. And I'm going to have to be aware of that. That's the best I can do. I do think I'm in a way better position health-wise where I can actually go do this job.
Who did you consult?
I didn't talk. I talked to my 3 girls and one of my best friends, but nobody, I didn't want anybody to know. And I had told the Reds guys that too. I said, hey man, I need to keep this. And so they came out to my house and visited with me in Tucson, and we talked for about 5 hours, and right away we hit it off pretty well. And it was a comfortable conversation, and my palms started getting a little sweaty. And I'm like, okay, this is getting real.
What'd the Guardians say?
You know what? There's not a person there that you could find that I would say something negative about. They're the nicest people I've ever worked for. Like I said, when I stepped down, it wasn't because I was disappointed in people. I just didn't think I was doing the job appropriately. And it was getting harder for me. And I was becoming short on patience just because, when you don't feel good, and that's not healthy for a manager.
How often do you think about the Red Sox World Series champs?
Not very often. I mean, I get people will remind me of it when I'm out in public or something, but I'm actually afraid, they did that 30 for 30 thing, and I'm actually afraid to watch it because I'm afraid we might lose because there seemed like there's so many things that could have gone wrong and we would have lost. But, I enjoyed it. Like, it was probably the 4 funnest baseball days of my life, but I'm pretty good about moving on and staying in the moment.
But do you think, how many of your players are going to know that you were the manager of the Red Sox and won World Series titles?
You know what, Dan, I'm not sure I care about that.
Okay.
They don't need to know that. What they need to know is that I have their best interest at heart, and I want to make the Reds be the best team we can be. I think in this game, it's not what you did. You got to keep earning your stripes every day. Like I hate the word, well, this guy arrived. Man, we're all still arriving. And the day you think you've arrived, you're missing the boat.
Talking to Terry Francona, the new manager of the Cincinnati Reds. We've seen this with smaller market teams, management, ownership, where they say, hey, we're a smaller market. We can't spend money. We can't compete. But you are seeing some of these other markets that maybe didn't spend a lot of money that are competing in the postseason. That's no longer an excuse, do you think, for smaller or mid-market teams?
Well, you know what, Dan? It'll never be an excuse, ever. I think being just completely honest, it's not altogether fair the way the system is set up. But you'll never hear me use that as an excuse. Man, I was in Boston where we were kind of one of the haves. Then I went to Cleveland and it was a little different, but I was very careful never to say, because my job is to get the most out of whoever we have. And that's what I get a big kick out of. I don't need to be the GM or the president. I mean, shoot, man, I went to the University of Arizona and I'm a second semester freshman. I don't need to be dabbling in that kind of stuff. I just want to do baseball.
Wait, you didn't make it through your second semester at Arizona?
Well, I was there, but that's what my thing says. I'm a second semester. I had some difficulties.
Take me back to when we were in Arizona, when you're managing Michael Jordan. When you first get how does that work out that all of a sudden Jordan's going to be on your team and you're managing him?
Well, so in Sarasota, when I was with the White Sox as a AA manager, we used to meet at 7 a.m. in the morning, every morning in this trailer, and you go over the day. And I was kind of like half asleep, and all of a sudden I heard Michael will be assigned to the Birmingham work group, and my life changed like that. I mean, I went from just being happy that our games were on radio to dealing with people like, Ted Koppel. And I didn't know it at the time, but it was probably the greatest learning experience I'd ever been put in. And then when he was going to play in the fall league, I had already been in the fall league. So they wanted to kind of keep it. But he goes, I want him, because they think I knew the lay of the land, and I learned how to navigate his life. And he was great, man. I mean, I'm telling you, the first thing I told him, I said, Michael, you got to respect the game of baseball. And I kind of explained to him like how much money these kids weren't making. And you'd have a hard time getting me to say something negative about him. He was awesome.
But if you had him, so much of baseball is like hockey, like you've done it. It's repetitive. It's year after year after year. You can be the greatest athlete, but to try to jump in, unless you're Bo Jackson, but, it's really, really rare. What would you have had Michael work? Like, could you have made him a legitimate major leaguer, a starter?
When I get asked that, I think the way I've answered it always, and it's because I believe it, is you need to get 1,000 at-bats under your belt before you can even make a determination. He had about 400 or 500. I also found out when you tell him no, he's going to find a way to make the answer be yes. And I found out, and that's not just baseball. That's ping pong, tennis, golf. I don't care, Yahtzee, you name it, man. He's going to try to beat you. He's going to find a way.
You get to see more of Ohtani now that you're in the National League. That's good news for you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's great. Thanks for that. Just made my day a little worse.
Does anybody come to mind? Let's just say hitting with Ohtani. Let's leave out pitching, but who comes to mind?
That's the one thing about Ohtani that I don't think he's generational. Like, his talent is generational. I don't know that you can put a name with him. It's probably disrespectful to him. I mean, this kid is, and from all I've heard, he's a wonderful kid, and he loves baseball, which is really good for the game. Not necessarily so good for when you're playing him.
The pitching part's the hard part. We've seen what he can do when he's not pitching. He's stealing nearly 60 bases, and he's hitting 50 home runs. Value-wise, would you capitalize more on him, the hitter, all-around player, or would you try to split it like they've done before with him?
You know what, Dan? I haven't been around him enough to know like how it will work or what's best for him. I do know if you have a guy that can probably win 18, 20 games as a pitcher and hit 50 home runs, you're probably going to be pretty happy with him. I mean, who would have thought he might be underpaid?
It's true. How do you assess Ellie De La Cruz, like his future?
Ultra talented, athletic. He's the kind of kid that people want to watch play.
Is he an Eric Davis type talent?
You know what? That's actually a pretty good name. Trying to be a little careful because I haven't even met these guys yet, but I'm looking forward to it. And I will start that. Like I've talked to everybody on the team already, but I haven't met a lot of them. But I'm looking forward to getting with him because he is some kind of talent.
Wait, how's that work? You get like a call sheet and then you're just calling everybody, or did you do a big conference call?
No. I called every single guy. In fact, I was kidding during the press conference. Our general manager, Brad, sent me a list of names, and the list was so small that I end up literally talking to some U.S. citizens about spreading the word about Reds baseball because I was getting wrong numbers because I couldn't read the numbers. I had a couple people tell me like, "Hey man, we don't care about the Reds." I'm like, "How can you not care about the Reds?
You play on the team."
They're like, "Well, I live in South Carolina, and And so I told them, you gotta make the printing a little bit bigger."
You probably still have a flip phone, don't you?
No, but I'll tell you what I do have. I have an SE, which is what that's one of the old phones because I know how to use it. In fact, I told our IT guy, he just left here a minute ago. I said, "You need to go buy some Excedrin because your world just got a little tougher."
Well, welcome to Cincinnati and welcome back. Good to talk to you again.
Dan, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Take care.
Terry Francona, the Reds manager, 3-time manager of the year.